Good morning to everybody, in particular to our speakers today. I'm sure we're going to have a quite interesting session now. Just to summarize, between 2017 and 2020, fires have killed hundreds and ravaged forests, not only in Southern Europe, because we always think in Portugal, Spain and France, but increasingly there's a number of fires also in the Central, Eastern and Northern Europe. In addition to this extraordinary socioeconomic impact in terms of losses of lives, infrastructure and economic activity, extreme wildfires also produce serious and sometimes irreversible ecological impacts when considering soil and water degradation, as well as biodiversity loss. Moreover, wildfires are among the first contributors to climate change, with up to 20% of the total global greenhouse gas emissions per year. In the last 20 years, from 1998 to 2017, which is a sad year to remember in Portugal, more than 1.5 million hectares of Portuguese forests were lost. In its new growth strategy, the European Commission aims to transform the EU into a prosperous society with a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy where there are no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050, and where economic growth is decoupled from resources usage. The Green Deal, the European Green Deal that I've mentioned to you yesterday, 2 days ago in the morning, is a response to these challenges. The new context of extreme wildfires requires as well accelerating the shift towards a more holistic fire management approach, meaning integration of environmental, technologies, climate, health, society, security, cultural and socio-economic aspects. These issues and some others will be discussed today in these AED Days sessions by a set of specialists that I have now the privilege to start presenting. Paulo Fernandes will be our first speaker today. Paulo is a forest engineer, associate professor at the Forest Department of University of Trás-os-Montes and author. Paulo is also a member of the Forest Wise Collab Strategic Council and a member of the Portuguese Parliament Observatory Técnico Independent for Forest Fires. Paulo, the floor is yours.
Good morning, all. So I will give a brief overview of extreme wildfires. So first of all, what's an extreme wildfire? In general, it's a wildfire that we can distinguish by its size, and sometimes they are called mega fires, and more recently gigafires. But the most adequate definition it's in relation with the physical characteristics or fire behavior and the impacts of these fires. So extreme fires or fires with extreme behavior cannot be controlled by direct or even indirect firefighting methods. Sorry, my PowerPoint closed for some reason, so I will open it again. Okay, do you see it? Extreme fires cannot be controlled, and very often they exhibit what it's called as non-steady fire spread with rapid and unexpected changes. And when these extreme fires have impacts, they are often called catastrophic or disaster fires. So when they directly impact people, buildings, infrastructure, and especially when people die in these fires. Of course, these kinds of fires are not new, and I'll just give you two examples. This very well-known fire in 1949 France, it killed 82 people, very fast spread. This is what nowadays would be called as a plume-driven fire or a firestorm. Or this fire in Spain in 1979, a type of fire that affects wildland-urban interfaces. So we know that these extreme events and seasons are increasing, but if you look at this graph, it's just a sample of human fatalities in wildfires. We know that things used to be much worse back in the early 20th century or the end of the 19th century. Anyway, the recent trend is for an increase in fatalities. Worldwide, we know that fires are decreasing in area. So in the last 2 decades, less 25% area burn. This is mostly because tropical savannas concentrate most of the area burn, about 80%. And these ecosystems are being fragmented, and so fires cannot spread as they used to. But we see, on the other hand, large increases in fire extent, namely in the Western US, in boreal ecosystems, namely in Siberia. And we are seeing, at least in modern times, unprecedented fire seasons, such as in Chile and Portugal, 2017, Southeastern Australia, 2019, and California this year. These disasters, where do they occur in the world? So mostly we need to have an alignment between climate, including days or months with droughts and extreme atmospheric conditions, vegetation or fuel which is conducive to this type of fire behavior, and settlement patterns. For example, wildland-urban interfaces or people widespread in the landscape. These occurs mostly in the Mediterranean type regions, and especially with a humid climate variant, such as northwestern Portugal, for example. The factors behind...
Pablo.
Okay, so these extreme wildfire events are occurring under a certain combination of factors, namely climate with a dry season and extreme weather patterns, fire-prone vegetation, and distinctive patterns of landscape settlement by people. So this occurs mostly in humid Mediterranean type regions, such as you can see in this map in Europe. Most of these larger wildfires are concentrated in Portugal, which also has the, let's say, the best conditions for these types of fires given the climate, with high primary productivity and high fire danger. And so under these conditions, biomass grows, it dries easily and burns under extreme weather conditions. To get this type of fire behavior, we need, it's useful to check this equation. It's an equation for fire intensity, heat release. So it's a combination of fire spread rate, available fuel, and heat of combustion, which is more or less constant. And so we know that climate and weather through the atmosphere affect fire spread, through drought affect available fuel, and land and fuel management do basically the same. But then we have fire suppression, which also has a negative effect, as you will see. So trends in land use, these are photographs from some decades ago. The situation is now different with more fuel, more vegetation. And also people use less biomass, afforestation has occurred and increased fire danger. And simultaneously, we tried to enforce fire control policies, and these were successful. So you see in these maps trends in area burn in Europe, which decreased by 2/3 in the last decades. And this has an unintended consequence, because if you have less fire, you are increasing fire risk through vegetation if you don't have fire prevention. And so we are potentially increasing extreme wildfires in Europe. So these fires are, we can say they are enabled by fire weather. They are made by the landscape. And finally, they are amplified by fire management policies that control fires instead of controlling fuels. And so to conclude, our challenge as a society, namely in Southern Europe, is to live with fire in a flammable landscape in safety, and trying to benefit the positive effects that fires have on ecosystems, but minimize the fire-related ecosystem disservices, how they are nowadays called. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paulo. Excellent, excellent. Our next speaker is Tiago Oliveira. Tiago is an expert in forest fire risk management and governance. His political and managerial experience is grounded on 25 years of operation and research activities as incident commander, aerial coordinator, hotshot crew, or regular wildland firefighter. He holds a PhD in forest engineering and natural resources at the University of Lisbon. Tiago Oliveira, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, I'm just preparing the slideshow for you.
Okay.
Minutes. Is that okay?
Ricardo? Aqui
Okay, good morning. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Integrated Agencies for Rural Fire Management in Portugal that was that started in the aftermath of the 2017 fires. We are an agency that aims to do the strategical coordination and the supervision of the new system that is being implemented in Portugal. And the idea is to tackle and monitoring all the key indicators regarding the governance of the wildland fire risk. So on aiming that, we have built the national strategy to integrated fire management that was published in June this year, and we are now in the step of building up the initiatives and the program and doing all these project managements accordingly to the national budgets and the projects aiming to achieve critical results by the year 2030. So what we have now is that we are aiming to address that vision, Portugal protected from severe rural fires. And this is important because our goal is to avoid civil losses. And we are assuming that we are going to have fires, that we are going to coexist with fire in Portugal. So, but we don't want to have fatalities or extreme wildfires, although they are going to exist, but they are going to be less probable. Our mission is to protect people and property from rural fires and develop wildlands, ensuring ecosystem are properly managed or cared. The national targets are about 1.2 million hectares of forest management, so forest and shrublands, mistranslated there, have proper active forest management. Burned areas with more than 500 hectares are fully management. They have recovery plans implemented. That is not happening nowadays. Nowadays, we have less of 80% of ignitions in high fire risk days. Although we have succeeded in the last 2 years to cut by half the number of ignitions, we are not doing enough to reduce the ignitions in the critical days, but that is a critical goal for us. And we want to implement a value chain and process by the year 2023, assuring that everybody in the systems knows the roles and duties and have a proper responsibilities to be accountable. Qualified people will be will be staffing the teams by 2021, and the total of all the resources that are staffing the systems, which are about 20,000, will be fully engaged by 2030. We hope that the burned area stays below 600,000 total in the next 111 years, and the proportion of hectares burned areas that represented by the burned areas above 500 hectares is below 0.3%. Well, for that, we have the strategy that's being published by this mandatory guidelines by the Council of Ministers, published in the 16th of June this year. There's a strategy, there's a value chain, and now we are building up the action programs in order to ensure that the national budget on all these 5 regional national programs do assure that the strategical objectives are going to be followed up. Well, we have 4 strategic orientations: rural area valorization, taking care of rural areas, behavioral change, and effective risk management, with 16 strategic objectives, mostly trying to balance the budget regarding the prevention and suppression. Since the last 40 years, most of the money was spent in the suppression. In 2016, 143 million were spent in all this fire risk management in Portugal, but only 20% were spent in prevention. Now, this year, we have achieved to have a total budget of 243 million euros, but 50% are being spent in prevention. And I mean it's giving value to rural areas, so increase the income of the forest owners, taking care of rural areas with active management, and assure a behavior of change. All the other effective risk management is regarding the effectiveness of the suppression resources, the detection, so forth. What we want to assure in the years ahead is to increase the budget for 500 million euros a year, to assure that we have 60% of the money invested in prevention and 40% in suppression. We are hoping to have to support this budget through the Green Deal, and to have these annual budgeting opportunities to assure long-standing activities in the grounds through the private sector mobilizations, and also the common agriculture policy, according also to other green funds that are available in Portugal. Well, regarding the strategy and innovation activities, we have that vision and mission completely deployed and shared and communicated with the stakeholders. Now it's time to approach this innovation policy. It was built the Forest-Wise consortium, or collaborative activities that bring together universities and major stakeholders. And we want to assure that we have an open innovation process that make a close collaboration between those that are producing the knowledge and those that are consuming the knowledge. At the SGIF, it's the acronym of Sistema de Gestão Integrada de Fogos Rurais, also it's the Rural Fire Management System, where all the people are consuming the knowledge, assuring that they are doing tasks effectively and in the best effective way. So we have a huge process going on regarding knowledge through training, through making good indicators that need to be monitoring to assure that entities are accountable in order to press the buttons correctly to assure that we are spending the money in the best way, using the best technology to be the most effective. Well, there are some Forest-Wise research and development agenda that was managed and was created in the broad discussion program. Those are the key issues where people are most focused on, which are, I think, quite useful for you as an audience that are aiming to deploy knowledge through these processes. So what I would recommend, it's in order to leverage your efforts, is that you Google in the Forest-Wise agenda, also go to our website, and please read carefully, although it's written in Portuguese, the Rural Fires Better Management Based on Scientific Evidence. That it's the minutes from the conference that we held last year among those that produce the knowledge and those that consume that knowledge. It will be recently next week the national strategy translated to English that I will invite you to see at our website at www.agif.pt. Thank you so much.
Tiago, thank you very much. I'm sure many people will check out your presentation at your website. Even myself, I'll be interested in having a look on it. I really appreciate your point concerning alignment of strategy to innovation. I think it's a key point for this discussion here today in this session. So thank you very much for your presentation. The next speaker is Luís Felix. Major Luís Felix is a director at the Portuguese Air Force Academy Research Center. and is coordinator and teacher at the Academy Engineering Department. Luís Félix tem a PhD in Aerospace Engineering from Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon. Major Luís Félix, the floor is yours, please.
Ok, já me estão a ouvir, certo?
Yes,
Estamos
sim, senhora.
Well, good morning to everyone, and thank you for the introduction. And it's a pleasure to participate in this event. And I want to thank the invitation you sent to the Academy in the name of our commander. My presentation will be a little bit different from the other ones. I will try to show you what we are doing on our research center regarding wildfires firefighting support. For that purpose, I will give you our background on wildfires by addressing our collaboration with the Emergency and Civil Protection National Authority, the work we have done in maritime surveillance that can be used in this subject, and operational exercise that we have participated in the last years. Then I will present you the wildfires R&D projects that we have ongoing, and end my presentation with some conclusions. So in the last years, during the wildfire seasons, the Portuguese Air Force collaborates with the Emergency and Civil Protection National Authority whenever necessary, either by gathering aerial images of ongoing fires and disseminate them to coordination units, or by taking on board firefighting coordination operatives. The main objective of these flights is to provide an eye on the sky to create a live situational awareness, including the location of the main fires, the location of firefighting crews, and the proximity houses or other infrastructures. For this purpose, the Air Force uses manned aircraft missions, which are quite expensive and their availability is limited. Recent developments on unmanned aircraft systems, together with the miniaturization of sensors, has made it possible to equip small UAVs with powerful, long, mid, and short-wave infrared sensors, which have set a new ground in remote sensing and data gathering, being considered a preferable means to obtain relevant data from live fires. So in the last 10 years, our research center has been working on UAS solutions for maritime surveillance and has participated in several related R&D projects with national and international partners, as for example, PIT-20, Perez, Seagull, Sunny, and Andromeda. In the project PIT-20, we developed capabilities and competence on operation of UAS, starting by design and build our aerial platforms, integrate all the avionics necessary to autonomous flights, develop a ground control station, and communications segments. Following Project PIT-20, we have addressed the maritime surveillance issue, and we have developed algorithms for various means. For example, we have developed algorithms for automatic search, automatic target detection, identification, automatic target following, as well as develop UAS solutions and concepts of operations for different maritime scenarios. Now, our objective is to apply this technology and knowledge on wildfire combat support. In May 2018, in collaboration with the Portuguese company, Aviation, we participated in a wildfire operational exercise promoted by the Emergency and Civil Protection National Authority, which was done in Montemuro. And during this exercise, we detected a real wildfire ongoing. And we were able to acquire infrared and visible image from this fire, as well as watch the operations on ground and air. We'll see in this video a helicopter trying to release water over the flames. Later in 2019, the Portuguese Air Force, again with collaboration with Aviation, conducted an operational exercise on wildfire monitoring from July to October, in which were accumulated more than 20 flight hours, 200 flight hours. So now I will present you the R&D projects that we have related with wildfires, that are Boa-Mais, Firefront, and the NATO supports projects. The main objective of Project Boa-Mais is to develop novel methods for target detection and tracking in airborne and seaborne image sequence, using visual and infrared sensors. The results of this of the project can have a direct impact on strategic national activities, such as ocean and forest monitoring. To demonstrate the applicability of the methods, we are going to do 3 scenarios, which are detection of forest fires from airborne image, and the other ones are related with maritime surveillance. In the area of wildfires, the objective is to adapt existing target detection algorithms in order to address complex background on a first surveillance scenario, such as trees, foliage, and complex landscape that can occlude the target. In this project, we also want to create a data set that will allow to train algorithms and foster further research on this field. Project Firefront stands for Real-Time Forest Fire Mapping and Spreads Forecast using Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, and is a national project. It's starting to 2019, and in order to achieve the main objective, that is to create a decision support tool for combat of wildfires in forest scenarios, we aim to develop algorithms for real-time detection and georeferencing of fire fronts using airborne imagery, forecast evolution of the fire fronts using the aerial data, weather conditions, and fuel availability, and make information available in time in a usable format for the firefighting coordination units. To achieve that, the project proposed the following architecture. We are going to use both manned and unmanned aircrafts, equipped with the same type of sensors, which will enable to interchange the sensors between aircrafts. These aircrafts will acquire image, infrared and visible from the fire, and transmit them to the ground station, as well as aircraft telemetry. In the ground station, we'll do the sync between telemetry and image, send them to fire propagation models that will give an estimation where the fire front is going. And after we have all the information, this is sent to a national coordination center, which analyze the information and give instructions for the firefighters' crews. In this project, the Air Force is working on the sensors, and we have already installed all the processing units on board, as well as the visual and infrared sensors. And we are also working on the software to sync telemetry with image, and on the software to disseminate the information. The last project I want to present you is a NATO support project between Portugal and Canada, and the objective is to develop a novel active fire modeling and prediction methods using manned and unmanned aircraft vehicles. In order to accomplish that, we want to collect information on fire front, to establish collaboration and data sharing on wildfire procedures between nations, and to allow for cross-nations database dissemination, to test supply ag solutions sensors. To finish my presentation, I want to show you these 3 ideas. We believe that UAS systems have the potential to replace manned mission for wildfire situational awareness, reducing flight costs and increasing service availability. In the last years, Portugal has developed a lot of work on maritime surveillance using sensors on board UAS for search and target detection, which can be useful on wildfires monitoring. And the main challenge is to adapt existing solutions and training algorithms for wildfire detection and georeferencing, considering the scenario's characteristics. And thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you very much, Major Luís Felix, to show us the latest achievements by the Portuguese Air Force. Quite impressive from my side. I knew some of them. I did not know all of them, so I think it's quite interesting to see that. And I think for the audience to be also quite glad to see that. Our next presentation is going to be shared by 2 speakers from Airbus. First, I will give the word to Simão Rocha, who is Business Development Manager for Portugal and Western Africa in Secure Land Communications, which is a business unit for Airbus Defence and Space. Simão has 10 years experience in Southern European markets, and his specialization in critical communications supports a global approach towards firefighting. Simão, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, José, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. My name is Simão Rocha. I come from the Defence and Space team at Airbus. And today I came here to introduce you our global approach towards firefighting. On this approach, we identify 4 main stages of development that I would like to detail with you. Stage number 1 is the prepare and prevent stage. And for this, we identify 2 of our tools as interesting for your solution. On one side, the satellite constellation that will allow us to collect image and data to use it to build prediction models. And on the other side, the social media mining tools that would allow us to search, analyze, and use the data from social media, again, to forecast models of behavior that could allow us to predict dangerous behaviors that could endanger our forests and raise the risk of fire. The second stage is detection stage. Again, on this stage, we need to consider the use of our satellite constellation, and here we can think about the using of specific tasking on the satellite that would allow to adjust the behavior and adjust information collected to each stage of development. But on the other side, we can also use our unmanned aerial vehicles, the drones, and also the information collected by our rotary wings and fixed wings vehicles that would allow to identify and to respond in real time to the risks and to provide the data for usage in the command and control centers and share with the ground teams. This stage takes us to a third stage of development, which is obviously the response stage. Inevitably, we will get to this stage, and then we can support you with 2 of our products, which are the rotary wings with water bombing, transport and rescue capabilities, but also the fixed wings with water bombing, transport and rescue, but also a full integration with our command and control centers. Then we have a final stage, that is the recovery stage. We will get there, and in this recovery stage, it is important to have the capability to analyze and to process the data collected before, during, and after the event. And with this information and its analysis, we can assess the damage and the evolution of the damage. We can predict the erosion and the risk for the land and for the population. And we can also build response models that will allow us to adjust our response for the future. To implement these 4 stages, we have a group of products and solutions that I can detail in this slide now. And the center of our response will definitely be the command and control headquarters. Why? Because these allow us to build an integrated response where we can collect the data from the satellites and the analytic systems we can offer. We can collect data from UAV, fixed wing, rotary wings, and all together we can make this data get to the firefighters, to the actors in the ground, to the people that need data with efficiency and timely, using different models of communication. Either we can use what is already available in our country, our emergency networks, our, why not, GSM networks, or, as you can see on the right-hand side of the presentation, we can create our, let's say, communication bubbles. And these communication bubbles will offer, in the event of an emergency, of a disaster, alternatives to provide information. And information is critical to provide the tools to the people that is on the ground to build a better response, a more effective response. And for that, we have the deployable centers, the satellite connections that can offer a communication alternative at any moment, and also mobile range vehicles that, together with our integration tools, can build a global response to the emergencies. With this, I pass the word to my colleague, Agat, that will follow up the presentation for us. Agat, please.
Yes, let me just introduce Agat. Agat Tulio is she's a sales manager for Portugal and Western Europe within Airbus Helicopters division. Agat is overseeing defense and commercial markets in this geographical area. And after spending 10 years in the industry or so, Agat has joined the helicopter business unit of Airbus 12 years ago. Agat, please continue. Thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you, José. So now we will focus on the helicopter solution. It's in the detection and response stage of our global solution. As explained previously by Paulo Fernandes, among other factors, climate change and evolution of the ecosystem is leading to increase of fire risk, is leading to longer firefighting fire seasons and more frequent and more severe fire behavior. Therefore, firefighting means, such as helicopters, need to face 3 main challenges. The first one is the 24/7 response capacity, meaning high availability rates of the helicopter. The second one is the readiness. We need to be ready as soon as the fire starts, meaning we need to be ready to fly within minutes. And the last, but not least, the last challenge is the night flight. The headaches we have from the big fires, such as Californian one, Australian one, Brazil, and also the big fire of Portugal in 2017, is that fire fights during night time. And it's a really important point. During night time, the temperature drop, the wind also dies down. And during this time, the firefighting means are really more efficient. So to tackle those 3 challenges, the helicopter industry had to adapt and to evolve its technology to answer those 3 points. We have developed new avionic technologies. We have developed 4 axis autopilots. All our helicopters are now compatible with night flights as a basis. You can fly with a night vision goggle, for instance. Here you have a picture of a device put in place by Sécurité Civile in Corsica during firefighting season. This device is also used in many other countries to fight a fire. It's composed of one light helicopter, H125, one medium helicopter, H145, and the really heavy water bomber, the H225. Let's go through all those helicopters. The H125, it's really the proven helicopter. We have 5,000 units flying around the world and more than 27 million flight hours retakes since the entry into service. This figure is really important because it allows us to improve a lot the parts and the components of the helicopters. It allows to reduce the maintenance plan and allow therefore a really high availability rate of the helicopter, which is really key in the firefighting. Those light helicopters are usually used to fight small fires. They have 2 hours autonomy in a typical mission, which would be taking off with 4 firefighters and the Bambi bucket of 1,200 liters. They are usually located close to the firefighters, close to the risk areas. Therefore, takeoff time is really important. Thanks to the FADEC technology, which allows fully automatic startup of the helicopter, it can be ready to fly within 3 minutes. It's a really important point. It allows to decrease the workload of the pilots. Same as the glass cockpit. The new avionic glass cockpit with a G500 TXI is a really simplified instrument panel, allowing to decrease the workload of the pilots, which can then be concentrated and focus on the main mission, which is to drop the water at the right place and the right moment. So this is for those light helicopters. Now let's go to the medium one, the H145. It's a really multi-mission helicopter. It can perform, it can fight the fires, of course, thanks to the Bambi bucket, 900 liters up to 1,600 liters with the Bambi Max. However, the main mission of this helicopter is to transport the firemen close to the fire areas and also to evacuate them in case of danger. One of our important missions is also the rescue of the population. It's really key in the fire fighting device. Rescue, search and rescue those who are in danger. Can do that thanks to a really latest technology, searching light, hoist, medical device, stretchers. Can also land everywhere and really close to the really difficult areas thanks to the landing gear. Another point is that extreme wildfire are now observed more frequently in high altitudes. Developments in technology now allows helicopters such as the H145 to have really good hot and high performances. The new material which are used allow to lighten the helicopters in performance. The weight of the helicopter is really key. Another point is the rotor. This helicopter is equipped with the most modern rotor in the world. It took us more than 12 years of research and development to reach this kind of performance, and it allows to increase the power of the helicopter. The last point is the dual use. Nowadays, the budget is really important. You need assets to fight the fires, but you need assets also to go to military, to go to the EMS missions. So here, this helicopter is dual use, meaning can perform as well a military mission and civil mission. And all those technology allow us to develop today helicopter with a really wide range of mission capability, which is really important. Last but not least, let's go to the 225. It's really the workhorse, the water bomber, with a capacity of a Bambi bucket up to 5,000 liters. It can transport up to 20 firefighters, has a water dropping capacity close to the small fixed wing water bomber, meaning it can drop from 40,000 liters to 80,000 liters in a 2 hours playtime. For instance, we had a big fire this summer close to the factory here in France, and the H225 dropped more than 200,000 liters in 4 hours. And I can tell you, when the fire is that close to your home, to your factory, to your family, you are really happy and grateful to see this H225 arriving. It's of course equipped with a really modern glass cockpit, allowing to fly at night, of course, but also in almost all weather conditions. And it's ready to fly in 4 minutes. As a conclusion, what I want to say is that Airbus and more globally, the helicopter industry has been working over the last decade to provide new generation aircraft capable of flying during nighttime safely, operate in almost all weather conditions or geographical scenarios, and improving a lot the components and the parts to improve the availability of a means. So the means are there, but they cannot be 100% efficient if they are not integrated in a global detection command and control system, as explained previously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agathe. The next speaker is a person that I know for more than 10 years, I would say. I think Pablo Perez is an expert in Brussels for the aeronautical and aviation issues. Pablo currently works at the Policy and Program Officer at the Directorate General for Research and Innovation of the European Commission. Pablo is currently focused on aviation safety, security, and international cooperation in aviation research, as well as new air vehicles, emergency services, and synergy with the space. Pablo, please, the floor is yours. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much, José. Muito obrigado pelo convite. And congratulations for the event and for the evolution of Portugal over these years in the area of aeronautics, space, and defense. Has been quite positive to witness that. So today I would like to simply make a bit of publicity of a call for proposals that has recently opened. And I would like, first of all, to remind, maybe for some of you, if you are not familiar with the research and innovation program in the European Union, which is called Horizon 2020. It's a multi-annual framework program that is coming to the end. And now we are preparing for the next similar program called Horizon Europe. But what is interesting is at the very end of Horizon 2020, we have had the opportunity with some funding remaining to launch what we call a Green Deal call. And this is what I'm going to present. But before that, I would like simply to remind what is Horizon 2020 and to maybe give as an example an overview of what is the aviation research program. And then I will jump directly into the Green Deal call and the wildfire topic. So Horizon 2020 is one of the largest civil research and innovation framework programs in the world. And it's basically structured in 3 pillars. Excellent science, where it's more at the level of individual researchers, more basic research. Then we'll have the second pillar on industrial technologies, and that's, for instance, where the activities of space research also lie. I'm sure many of you are also active in this domain. And the third pillar is what we call societal challenges. The large majority of the program is open to participation by any legal entity in the EU and even beyond. And it's functioning the basis of open call for proposals with independent peer review. So if we jump into the third pillar, challenges, here there are different domains. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the area of security and of course, hopefully in the area of transport, in particular, the part of aviation. And the way it's structured is a bit kind of, you see, by the different challenges, but if we go in particular in the case of transport, the part of aviation, you probably may have heard of the two main streams of work. We have at the top level in terms of TRL up to 6, reduced level up to 6, with public-private partnerships like the famous Clean Sky, which is more focused on demonstrator environmental friendly aircraft for ATMSSR. But we have also at the lower TRL collaborative research addressing other aspects of aviation research and innovation. And basically, the work in this domain collaborative means that these are teams of at least 3 entities coming together from different European Union associated states, just putting proposals, and then if proposals are positively evaluated and retain, the projects run for several years. Now, coming back to the challenges, the point is that on the one hand, with some additional funding at the end of Horizon 2020, and on the other hand, with the policy goal of the Green Deal on the climate change and environmental issues, there was a decision not to use this additional funding for the traditional projects, but to open a cross-cutting call that is more mission-driven in topics that are aligned with the Green Deal call, and also to trying to bring it more up to the demonstration level. And with that background, some of us, we came up with the idea of having a dedicated topic on wildfires prevention and wildfire fighting. And of course, as in this case, the idea is also to connect all the different contributors to this and to address this from all the different angles. So, of course, the background, you have mentioned it already in advance, is clear. It's a safety and security issue, more with hundreds of casualties in the European Union, but also in terms of economic damage, in terms of the forest and Natura 2000 sites ravaged. But the curious thing is, it's not only in Southern Europe, but also rising in Central, Eastern, and Northern Europe. Just to give you an example, this year, some of you may have noticed, already in March, there were wildfires in the border between Germany and the Netherlands for several days, actually, and with evacuation of hundreds of people in March. Of course, you've seen also in other parts of Europe, in Sweden in the last years, the trend is changing. So we see extreme wildfires, as Professor Fernandez mentioned before. Yeah, the extreme wildfires are on the rise, and this means more pollution and less biodiversity and damage in the ecosystems. But what is interesting is that the wildfires are at the same time effect partially of climate change, but also double cost, directly in terms of the huge emissions of greenhouse gases, but also the capacity of carbon absorption can be also limited depending of the fires. So the pictures that you can see below actually show, on the one hand, an overview of forest fires larger than 500 hectares from 2000 to 2017, and as you know well, in Portugal, Portugal was one of the most affected. But on the right side, you see with the projections of climate change, how the increase in the number of days per year of high to extreme fire danger, and we see how this is moving also farther north. And this is, of course, very, very serious. This is a study of the UN Research Center from the European Union. So the approach of this call is basically to accelerate, integrate, adapt, and demonstrate in pilot sites research and innovation in a holistic way. So it's, as we have seen, there are a number of capacities and there have been a number of research projects, but we want here is to really bring it up to the demonstration and to facilitate the upscale and deployment at local, regional, national, European, and even international level, making the best use of the existing data, technologies, and services. And what is very, very important is, of course, to closely engage with the actor and communities for each phase, including the agencies, as we have heard before on for instance, the national agencies. So as you see, it's quite a comprehensive approach. So it's not just purely technological, it's trying to address all the different angles of the problem to bring them together. So once again, here we see, I'm a bit echoing the holistic approach of this cycle that we have seen before also in the presentation, for instance, from Airbus. So we have all the different phases, and we have structured also the call in a way that we are obliging any proposals to address all the three phases. So we don't want a silo approach. We want that all proposals are addressing all the main phases: prevention, preparedness, detection and response, restoration, and adaptation. Because in many cases, there are feedback loops that we cannot lose. And all this preparation, I should say, it has been not done yet, the commission. We had some idea at the beginning, but we have been in close interaction with all the member states representatives, and also there's been a public consultation with a lot of inputs. Maybe some of you participated, and we are very grateful, and that was a strong signal to integrate all the different phases. In terms of targets, the aspirational targets, of course, are related to the zeroing fatalities from wildfires, to the reduction of accidental ignitions and emissions, to, in a way, control of wildfires. We avoided the word in extinction, as Professor Fernandez said, because in some cases it's not that the quick extinction is really 100% beneficial. So to be under certain control, but we avoid the word extinction. That was also a matter of a good debate in the preparation. And of course, all the different reductions in terms of building losses, also aspects related to insurance of wildfires, fire resilience of protected areas. And as I mentioned before, in some cases, also the use of prescribed fire treatment. So it's not that fire is always bad per se. It can be also a tool if it is properly used. And what we put a lot of emphasis to maximize the impact, again, is we don't want the research results that already exist or that can be advanced in the projects to end up on the shelf. We want them to end up on the field, and we want them to be taken up by those who can be in the operations. So that's why it's very important to connect with the national authorities. There is at European Union level, the Union Civil Protection Mechanism. And as you may know, following COVID crisis, there's been also an increase of resources for the capacities at the European Union Civil Protection Mechanism. So that could be also of a lot of interest for aeronautics and space capabilities. Then, you know, there are a number of emergency response coordination center, knowledge centers, European Forest Fire Information System at European level. So we want the proposals really engage with these actors at all levels. EU, regional, interregional initiatives, very important as well, because we see in some cases issues when we have wildfires that across different countries. And of course, there is the international dimension as well. So to go on the practicalities of the cost. So the budget available for these wildfire topics is all in all 75 million euros. 75 million euros were the bulk of the budget. 72 million euros are devoted for what we call innovation actions. Innovation actions mean exactly what we were referring before. So we want to go up to the demonstration pilot sites. So it's not as a traditional research and innovation project, but we want really to bring it up to higher maturity. This means, of course, normally these kind of projects are of larger scale, especially in this case where we are obliging to address, each proposal should address all the fire management phases. So we expect, it's an indication, it's not that each project could be of the order of 15 to 20 million euros, but other amounts are also possible. And I would like to remind that because of this nature of demonstration and be closer to market, in these projects, the co-funding rate of the European Union for the European Union member states entities or entities from associated countries to the Horizon 2020 program, so the countries that are also contributing financially. So in those cases, those entities can benefit, generally speaking, of 70% of the cost, while 100% is possible for those that are non-profit. So that's the bulk. And then there is a accompanying coordination and support action with much smaller size, which is basically, as you will see later on, to try to connect well all these innovation actions with other projects and to make sure we have all these projects not just running separately, but trying to coordinate together and to have a higher impact. So as mentioned, each proposal should address the 3 phases, and in each phase, the proposals can focus on a subset of activities. We don't prescribe how many and which ones, but just as a matter of example, in the part of prevention preparedness, there is aspects on integration of the socioeconomic and environmental information on the wildfire causes and impacts. So there is also the aspects of sustainable fuel management, as was mentioned before. It's not just about fire management itself, that is a fuel management, which is key in the prevention preparedness. Then the aspects related to the fire danger index rating and warnings, aspects on the culture on risk prevention, as we heard before in the case of the national strategy in Portugal, for instance. So there are a number of activities, including improving early warning tools, so that in some cases can also benefit from aerospace applications. So that's for an example for the phase A. For the phase B, I think most of what is mentioned here in the context, we have seen very well illustrated in previous presentations. You know well, we have a number of tools from drones, water bomber helicopters, planes that we've seen examples before. Also, increasingly, also pseudo satellites or high altitude pseudo satellites are emerging in some cases as a complementary tool. We have seen before and this I think very important, the night operations issue. So if there are capacities that we can push further, and we know that there have been developments, and we have heard just a moment ago. So let's try to help this to put it into place, because it's a shame, I think, for us aerospace engineers that we are able to do some technical prowess in other domains, civil or non-civil, and then we have these wildfires at night, and in many cases, apparently not possible to fight them from the air. So I think this is something we can do much better, and that could be one of the activities as well. Then we have aspects related to the coordination and the simultaneous operation of all the actors, from firefighters, manned and unmanned ground or air vehicles, but to operate them simultaneously in all conditions. No? And this, of course, refers to services of location, route management, patrolling, and automation. Another activity can be the fire and smoke propagation forecasting. We know there are some activities. We heard before in Portugal, there's been also a project on this. So let's bring all these capacities to a higher level to bring them closer to operations. Other aspects, incident management, we heard a lot about communication, coordination, command systems. I think Simao, Airbus colleague, mentioned to this aspect. So another aspect that can be also addressed in this kind of proposals. The interaction with citizens at risk, the warning systems, for instance, and of course, search and rescue and evacuation operations, the coordination in the overall operational scenario is another angle of it. We have also a point on the equipment of emergency responders. So, for instance, personal protection or ICT support tools, even robotics. So, and then last but not least, also the training aspects. And we know with extreme wildfires was showcased before how the behavior is much different. And in some cases, this may require new training, and in some cases, even improving the simulators available for this kind of events. And last, there is a point as an example on better and faster estimates of the impact of fire events. For the what we call phase C, restoration adaptation, of course, here we have the issues of the measures for the fuel treatment, the post-fire ecosystem restoration solutions. As you can imagine, I'm an aerospace engineer. I'm not a specialist on forests themselves, but the colleagues that we have been working together on this, those who in the commission who are specialists, for instance, indicate how with the climate change, it will not be in many cases obvious to use the same kind of vegetation that was before the fire, because the conditions will not be favorable to that. So this means also rethinking in the type of the vegetation that should be after the fire in terms of restoration, just an example. There are also the aspects of public-private cooperation mechanisms, the legal framework in the EU, and the promotion of governance systems for restoration and adaptation. That was for the innovation actions, and then we have this kind of glue for all the different technical innovation actions to be together and with other activities. Is what we call a coordination support action. And here is connection of the research with cohesion and civil protection funds, for instance. So we will have more impact if we are able to put together the different tools that are available at European Union level, but also at national, regional level, or internationally. Again, to facilitate the integration of street fire management phases in the proposals, and all the recommendations to make sure that this is reaching out at European level and even beyond. Maybe just a word on, of course, the activities in the proposal should go beyond state of the art. So in case it can help, at least at European Union level, there have been a number of research projects in the framework program, but also some activities in other programs that I would recommend to you to have a look at this very interesting document called Projects for Policy, Sparking Fire Smart Policies EU. They listed, the colleagues listed there all the projects that have been running, and that could be very useful in case you are looking for partners to increase some capacities or to complement. The presentation that will be available has the link incorporated to the document. So that's first point, going beyond state of the art. Second, cooperate, of course, with not only build upon past projects, but cooperating with ongoing relevant Horizon 2020 projects, and involve the relevant international, national, and European Union agencies. Here, I would like to say a word in particular coming from aviation, the experience we already have with the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA. In the last years, for the aviation safety research, we facilitate the involvement of EASA. So this means that if you are preparing a project where there are aviation safety aspects, and you can benefit from engaging the European Aviation Safety Agency, for instance, in preparation of future certification, or to let's say to get also their advice. So that's also possible in this kind of projects, including in these wildfires topics. And once again, to involve the end users, very important, including local and regional authorities. And then to end with a few slides on synergies with the space. Our colleagues from the space programs, of course, insist very much that both Galileo and Copernicus programs are up and running. Their data and services are world-class, open, and free of charge, so nothing should prevent for proposers to use them. And in the case of Galileo, just a reminder, of course, of the capabilities that are useful also for wildfires in terms of location, location and navigation of assets, people in distress, response teams during search and rescue operations, the georeferencing that you referred before, on the fire front, to have the almost real-time georeferencing. So there are, let's say, opportunities to use more Galileo and EGNOS. And just to mention the topics, also referring that most promising results in demonstrated in the projects could be upscale deployed in the future in the Galileo Emergency Warning Service. For Copernicus, needless to say that there are also a lot of capabilities to use for wildfires prevention and fighting, from near real-time data on the affected region to temperature information, meteorology. And once again, we think that these kind of projects can also, if the results prove promising once demonstrated, could be used to upscale and deploy into the different services of Copernicus, from the emergency management system, for instance, for rapid mapping, to the land service for monitoring changes in land cover and land use, the atmospheric monitoring service, even the security service that goes beyond the EU itself. So, and just to end with a note on the international cooperation, because as we know well, this is not a European problem only. We've seen tremendous cases of extreme wildfires in California, in Australia, in other parts of the world. So we have put this statement of multilateral international cooperation encourage. The idea is to leverage knowledge, resources, and best practice to decrease risk and to increase the impact worldwide. Among the countries explicitly mentioned are United States, Canada, Australia, Russia, Japan, Brazil. These are countries that that can participate, but of course there is in principle no European Union funding. But we have already good experience in the case of aviation research in some areas like aviation safety, where working together, putting together the resources from each side, we get much value for money for the activities. So here as well, I was glad to see yesterday, for instance, Canadian colleagues referring also to wildfire capabilities in this conference. Earlier today, we heard also issues, of course, in California, even for the supply chain of Bell. So we know that, of course, there are a lot of capacities there. It's up to the proposers to ponder which partners international partners can be also complementary. But simply to say, we facilitate that if there is an interest. And with this, just simply I would like to thank you and remaining available for any questions as well.
Yes, Pablo, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation, very detailed presentation. I think was very, very, very useful for the call that's just open, not for the whole audience. I'm sure everybody is aware that the call was open, but probably they're not so much aware about the details of the call that you just presented. We are a bit running out of time. Still, just to mention that, like you, I go a bit crazy when, as an aerospace engineer, when I see that aircraft operations are stopped at night with so much technology that we have today available. Why do we don't have operations at night? I do know that it's very risky operations. Typically, the risk is very high because they're typical in mountain canyons at low altitude and so on. But I'm sure there's technology that could help out a lot this delta, this gap that we have in firefighting work. I have just two small points here for you before we break up for lunch, which is being this also under European Commission, how many countries are required to respond to a call for proposals as is one on wildfires? And the second one, as you just mentioned in the last slide, the environmental ambition of the Green Deal will not be achieved by Europe alone, acting alone. There's other drivers which influence this loss of the climate change issues, and they are not limited just to national borders, because you cannot limit the fire by a national border. How do we should manage this international cooperation, considering that the European Union is not financing the other countries? From your perspective, do you think the other countries would be also interested to follow and to quite actively participate? How do you see their participation, as a project partner or just as a potential member of an advisory committee?
Okay. Thank you for the questions. For the first question on the minimum number, so the general rule for collaborative research in Horizon 2020 is that a consortium needs at least 3 different entities from different member states of the European Union, or what we call associated states. So usually the European countries that are not in the European Union but contribute financially to the program, like could be Switzerland, could be Norway, Turkey, Israel. So all these are the core, and so we need at least 3 from different countries. But of course, normally the experience we have also in the case of aviation research is that you need more partners to achieve critical mass for the goal, especially if you go up to these levels of demonstration. But again, this is up to the proposal. So the minimum 3. Regarding the question on the international cooperation. So as I said, for those countries, as they have relatively high income countries, we from the European Union, we don't provide the funding, but normally that's not a problem because those countries have also resources. We don't ask for those participants where their money is coming from. In some cases, we've seen in aviation research that could be even the entities themselves have their own resources, and they are using those resources for the collaboration. It could be even companies, could be universities, research centers. In other cases, what happens is that their national agencies for funding research have the possibility to fund their entities to collaborate, and that's also very useful, of course. And so just to give you an example, we have in aviation safety research, we have projects running, and we had Canada, United States, Russia, in some cases, Brazil, of course, as well, in this conference, very important as well. So in those cases, depending on in some cases, they may receive the funding from their own agencies, on other cases. What we do is, as soon as we have this kind of initiative, being aware that it should be international, we contacted our counterparts from the government to say, look, we are preparing for this. If you can mobilize on your side also resources that could help the collaboration. That's one point. And then on practical aspect, I would say for those in the European Union interested, contact the entities you have contacts already with them. They may be already aware of their funding opportunities, and there are also dedicated national contact points for each of these countries precisely to facilitate the funding potential funding opportunities in their countries. And these are also publicly available, national contact point. So that would be,
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, I would just, I'm being aware that we're late in time. So I will thank you to all the speakers for the excellent presentations. I think this was a very, very interesting session. I will not say the best, otherwise the other moderators will not like what I said, but I think it was very interesting, and thank you to all participants for being here today. And I have the contacts of all of you. I'm sure I'll be in touch with all of you in the next couple of weeks, even from the cluster side. I think it could be quite interesting to follow very closely this opportunity. That's why I mentioned to you, Pablo, how many countries it's required, because from the cluster side here in Portugal, it could be interesting to lead some activity to respond to this call, which is a concern for Portugal, Spain, France, and so on. So, of course, the other countries are suffering, but the southern countries are today much more affected. Thank you to all. I wish you a great afternoon, a great day. And to the audience, we see you back again in around 1 hour time. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much, Jose, and all the panel for another excellent discussion. So as Jose mentions, we will now have a lunch break. And we will start again at 2 o'clock West time, where we will address another also very interesting topic related to the future naval force, the challenge that lie ahead. So please return at 2 o'clock to this workshop. Also, just to reinforce that throughout the day, you still have the B2B meetings. So please take also that opportunity to connect and to open business opportunities. So thank you very much for staying in us, and we'll see you all at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.